All right, viewers, as I speak, the conflict between Israel and Iran intensifying. Israel continues to strike Iran, claiming the remaining Iran military leadership is on the run. All of this amidst U.S. warning to Iran to give up entirely. There is no nuclear deal on the table for the Iranian regime. G7 has also unanimously backed Israel's right to defend itself. Here's more.
Israel and Iran are on the brink of a big escalation. Two loud explosions were heard in Tehran on Tuesday morning. Israel has warned that it will attack more significant targets in Tehran today. Latest images released by Israel showed strikes on F-14 fighter jets in a Tehran airport, apart from strikes on trucks containing weapons and launchers on the way to Tehran. Israel has also asserted that its decision not to target Iran's nuclear facility in Fordo so far does not mean it won't in the future. Israel has dealt another deadly blow to Iran after laying majority of Iranian military top brass to waste just days ago. The Israeli Defense Forces eliminated Ali Shadmani, Iran's newly appointed wartime chief of staff. Shadmani was the most senior military commander and the closest figure to Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. His predecessor Hossein Salami was killed just days ago by Israel in a similar strike.
Tonight, following accurate intelligence received by the intelligence branch, we eliminated Ali Shadmani, the war chief of staff, the most senior military commander of the Iranian regime. Shadmani only managed to hold the position for 4 days, and we also eliminated him. We will pursue our enemies again and again using advanced intelligence capabilities, exploiting opportunities, air superiority, and complex operational planning.
Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz, meanwhile, has issued an open warning to Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei, claiming he could end up like Saddam Hussein.
I warn the Iranian dictator from continuing to commit war crimes and fire missiles at Israeli citizens. He should remember what happened to the dictator in the country neighboring Iran who took this path against the state of Israel. We will continue today as well to operate against regime targets and military targets in Tehran, as we did against the Propaganda and Incitement Broadcasting Authority.
Israeli fighter jets also launched a wave of targeted airstrikes deep into Iranian territory, including a shocking strike on Iran's state broadcaster headquarters in Tehran during a live transmission. The anchor on air was seen scrambling for cover as fire engulfed the studio. Flames consumed the building, and the aftermath was nothing short of catastrophic. A senior reporter for Iran's IRIB news agency stood outside the burning headquarters with hands stained with blood.
This appalling attack constitutes a blatant war crime and a direct assault on press freedom. The Israeli regime has once again demonstrated that it is the foremost enemy of truth. It holds the disgraceful record of being the world's leading perpetrator of violence against journalists and media professionals.
Iran too is hitting back with a wave of ballistic missile strikes on Israel. An Iranian Defense Ministry spokesman has claimed that Israel will be defeated in the coming days.
The Zionist enemy does not have the possibility of resisting and enduring a long war, and therefore this regime will be defeated in this imposed war.
Are Israel and Iran now at a point of no return? Bureau Report, India Today.
What we do know right now, viewers, that the conflict deeply rooted in a multifaceted geopolitical struggle, which once again involves ideology, security concerns, regional power dynamics. Will it escalate? Will it spiral in the region? All those questions that we will get answers to through the course of the next 25 minutes. I have in the studio with me senior journalist, consulting editor, India Today, Sandeep Unithan. While we are standing at the precipice of what Sandeep is clear escalation, I want to take our viewers through on what would be the might in terms of weaponry where Iran faces off with Israel. So a military comparison, and maybe you can also, weigh in on this. Iran's entire population, about 88 million, while Israel is just about 9 million. Iran's military budget is about 10 billion. And Israel's military budget is 24 billion, include, of course, US aid. Iran's active personnel, about 610,000, Israel's 169,500. Iran's reserve personnel, 350,000, Israel's reserve personnel, 465,000. Iran's paramilitary forces are 220,000, Israel's paramilitary forces 8,000. On one hand, Iran has about 10,500 tanks and Israel has about 400 artillery guns, with Iran 6,800 and Israel's just 530. Armored vehicles, Iran 640, Israel stands at about 1,190. Naval vessels, Iran 17, which includes submarines, 68 patrol, 7 corvettes. Israel 5 submarines and about 49 patrol boats. Ballistic missiles, Iran 12 type range up to about 2,000 kilometers. Israel, Jericho at about 4,800 to 6,500 kilometer range. This is an important one, viewers, and this could probably be that red line, and I'll get Sandeep to weigh in on this. Nuclear capability. Officially, Iran has none. Well, Israel officially has none, but it's an open secret, undeclared estimate of about 80 to 90 warheads. Air defense, Iran mixed Russian-Iranian systems. Israel multi-layered Iron Dome, David Sling, Arrow 3. Sandeep, would you somewhere down the line, delve into these figures that we put out for our viewers, just in terms of weaponry and artillery comparison between Iran and Israel, and how does it pan out on ground in layman terms?
Well, Preeti, you didn't add the point that both these countries are separated by over 1,000 kilometers. They don't have a border. So this is again, coming back to my point that this is one of the most bizarre conflicts in the world, where you have two countries that are separated by two other countries. They have Syria and Iraq in between them, and they're fighting this war that's on for almost a week now. They're hurling ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, hypersonic missiles, and fighter aircraft at each other. And this is one of the strangest conflicts that we've witnessed. And, about the military forces on both sides, Iran's military has not seen any significant additions to its fighter fleet or its warships or even its tanks in a long time. Its fighter aircraft date back to the 1970s, almost 5 decades old, from the time of the Shah of Iran. They've not got any worthwhile aircraft. They have an air force only in name of about 300 aircraft, but they've tried to offset the lack of an air force and a substantial navy by inducting ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones in very large numbers. They have thousands of ballistic missiles. Their estimates range from between 3,000 to 10,000. They have drones in their millions. In fact, they're so good at drones that the Russian Federation has been buying drones from Iran, and Iran has helped set up drone factories inside Russia when it's fighting Ukraine. So they're very good at drones, they're good at cruise missiles, and of course, ballistic missiles. They've been targeting Israel over the last few days with hypersonic ballistic missiles. We've seen those visuals, some terrifying visuals coming out of Haifa yesterday of hypersonic missile attacks that have gone right through Israel's air defense network. So here you have Israel that's been targeting Iran relentlessly over the last 5 days using its air force. Israel has one of the world's best air forces, Preeti. It is literally second to none, and they carry out the kind of missions that even the US Air Force would, think twice about doing. So you have Israeli Air Force jets flying over 1,000 kilometers one way, attacking targets inside Iran and then flying back. And they've neutralized all of Iran's air defenses, which is their ground-based air defenses, which primarily comprise of surface-to-air missiles. All of those have been neutralized to a large extent using drones that were launched from within Iran's territory. That's something that they've seemed to have picked up from Ukraine, that is to create these little drone bases inside of Iran through which they attacked Iranian air defense sites. So that is one reason that Israeli fighter jets are operating with near impunity over Iranian airspace. They've got complete air dominance today. They can fly all the way from the Mediterranean to the Arabian Sea. That's the Israeli fighter jets.
Sandeep, I'm just coming in, and to give our viewers perspective here, because earlier on in the meeting, to simplify it in layman terms, Sandeep, in the meeting, he was actually telling us that Israel jets have to fly, a distance from here to Bengaluru to even reach Iran?
Absolutely. They have to fly thousands of kilometers, something like 1,400 kilometers on a one-way mission to strike at, Iranian territory. And then they not only have to drop their ordnance there, but they have to spend some time on target and then fly back. So these Israeli pilots, they're flying missions that could be upwards of 3,000 kilometers both ways. So they're being refueled in the air and they're flying back. And, on the first day, Preeti, the Israelis attacked Iran on Friday, last Friday, with something like 200 fighter jets. That's almost the size of the entire Iranian Air Force. The Iranian Air Force has got about 300, 350 fighter jets. Not all of them are operational, but the Israelis have got some of the best fighter jets. They have F-16s, they have F-15s, they have F-35s, and all of these aircraft types were deployed over Iran to carry out those precision strikes, decapitation strikes, attacking leadership targets, attacking the Iranian revolutionary guards, and several nuclear sites as well. So it is Israeli jets operating with near impunity. Like I mentioned, it's almost flying distances like Delhi to Bengaluru one way, and spending time on target and then flying back, and then doing that day after day after day. So their jets, their fighter jets, would be going through incredible wear and tear, Preeti. And this is likely to continue for several more days.
Hold on to that thought. I just want to bring in my colleague, senior journalist Pranay Upadhyay as well, who's been covering the conflict very closely. But I will circle back to you, Sandeep, and maybe we can talk a bit about what kind of escalation, because we're definitely looking at escalation. Now, what is that escalation? Is that a red line? What is that red line that could be crossed? We'll delve a little deeper on that. But the impact of what is happening in this region between Iran and Israel, resonating all the way in Canada, where the G7 summit is taking place. And Pranay, you can come in, because I want to take our viewers through on what really happened in the escalating West Asia conflict. The G7 nations have now backed Israel's right to defend itself. US President Donald Trump, who left the G7 summit early, all of that amidst the rising conflict, said the only way for the war to end in Iran is giving up entirely. Trump added US will not allow Iran to own nuclear weapons, and that America is not looking for a ceasefire between the two countries. And that's important to underline, that America is not looking for a ceasefire between the two countries. What does that really mean? The G7 nations also released a statement condemning Iran's nuclear push. The leaders also called Iran a source of terror and regional instability. Let's listen in all the reactions coming in from the G7 summit in Canada. We cut across to Pranay. Sandeep continues to be in the studio with me.
What specifically is better than a ceasefire? What are you looking for here?
An end. A real end, not a ceasefire. An end.
So something that would be permanent?
Yeah, or giving up entirely.
Is that okay too? Are you close there? Is that possible in the next 24 hours?
Why not? Certainly possible. I've spoken to everybody.
What will you say?
Israel is doing very well, as you probably noticed, and I gave Iran 60 days, and they said no, and the 61st you saw what happened. Day 61. So I'm in constant touch. And as I've been saying, I think a deal will be signed, or something will happen, but a deal will be signed. And I think Iran is foolish not to sign one. Iran basically is at the negotiating table. They want to make a deal. And as soon as I leave here, we're going to be doing something. But I have to leave here. I have, this commitment. I have a lot of commitments. I have a commitment to a lot of countries. I want to see no nuclear weapon in Iran. And we're well on our way to making sure that happens.
There's shared concern about the risk of escalation, obviously, shared concern about the nuclear program of Iran, but absolutely a focus on how we de-escalate this, and that'll be a central focus as we go into the talks today. Get that de-escalation. And of course, all of us are giving advice to our citizens, for British nationals in Israel.
Iran is the principal source of regional instability, and we've always been very clear. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. We have voiced our strong concerns over Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile program. A diplomatic solution remains the best way in the long run to address concerns about Iran's nuclear program. And Europe remains committed to finding a lasting solution through a negotiated deal.
All right, Pranay, I want to bring you in, give us an understanding, because of course what is going on in terms of the conflict in West Asia, reflecting at the G7 summit. The US president has left the summit early, citing the conflict there. And now what we're actually looking at is possible escalation. What role is US going to play in all of this? Because what seems to be, at least right now, an understanding that there is no off-ramp or an attempt for ceasefire right now. That's not happening anytime soon.
Absolutely right, Preeti. But if you parse all these statements, one thing is very clear. There is a consistent statement which is coming from all these Western bloc countries, including the United States, that no way they can let Iran have nuclear weapons. That is the same pitch Israel is also making, and that is the pretext on which they have launched their Air Force operations. Taking forward Sandeep's point, this is a very unique operation carried out by the Israeli Air Force, because they are not only traveling to 1,500 kilometers carrying out these operations, they've already taken out the air defense systems of Israel and making Iran very vulnerable. So at this juncture, there is a fear of escalation, because if the United States jump into this conflict, because the very idea of denuclearizing Iran, that is only possible for Israel with the help of United States, because the B-2 stealth bomber, the B-2 Spirit bombers, which United States has, and which has the ammunition, the MOP bomb, which they have, that is the only mean with which they can denuclearize Iran, because that is required to decimate or to destroy the facilities like Fordow. Do US want to go about that? Do they really want to join Israel in this campaign? We are yet to see about that, Preeti, because President Donald Trump is back in White House. He's likely to hold a situation room meeting along with his commanders and in his security advisors. There are indications that US might want to help. And as far as the ceasefire is concerned, Preeti, I would want to make it a point here that if you see some of the Western countries, some of the European countries are making a pitch for the ceasefire, de-escalation. But what did President Donald Trump say? He said that Israel is doing good, and no way they can let Iran have nuclear weapons. So if the central line, if the basic idea is to denuclearize Iran, how that is happening, how that can happen, and if US has to join, how far that campaign would go, because Israel is also asking for the regime change in Iran. So will there be a regime change? Will there be another Iraq? Will there be? It is going to be a very messy situation, and we as in India has our own concern, because this is not far from India, and we have our interest in Iran. We have our investment in Chabar. We have our people in Iran. We are in the process of that evacuation operation, taking out our people from Iran. But definitely this is going to be very messy if US and Israel want to have both denuclearizing Iran.
Just coming in, and the reason I'm coming in is, where do we stand in terms of evacuation? How many Indian citizens right now are stranded where Iran is concerned? How many have we been able to get out?
A very valid question, Preeti, here, because we have our own concern vis-a-vis this escalating situation and tension in West Asia, especially in Iran. We have about 10,000 people in Iran. Some of them are resident there, they are working there, but around 2,000 is the number of Indian students, those who are studying in various medical universities of Iran. They are the priority. Also, the priority is to get people out from Tehran, because the capital of Iran is the primary target, which is being targeted by the Israeli Air Force, and that's why large number of people have been already taken out. People have been shifted to a city called Qom in Iran, and from there people are being taken to the various border points. Around 110 individuals and around 110 Indians have been made to cross over to Armenia, and they are now safely reached the Yerevan, which is the capital of Armenia, and another batch is likely to cross over via Turkmenistan border, because Ashgabat, which is the capital of Turkmenistan, is closer to the border, Iran-Turkmenistan border. So that is also being worked out. But also people are being taken on safer places, which are which are away from that conflict zone, because Tehran, Isfahan, and all these cities are the primary target where the military establishments are there, where the nuclear facilities are there.
All right, so word, of course, now also coming in that there have been fresh strikes where Tehran is concerned. But stay with me, Pranay. I want to just bring in Sandeep there, because from what Pranay said, the kind of commentary that is coming in, especially from the G7, from America, Sandeep, it does look that we are definitely standing at the precipice of escalation. Now, what that might be is the big question. This war is not going to remain limited. There's definitely going to be a spiraling of it. Now, will it be regional, global? In what context? What are the red lines?
Well, Preeti, the red line here is actually an attack by Iran on US bases in and around West Asia. There are something like 9 US bases in West Asia in different countries: UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Iraq. All of these countries have US bases. There's something like 50,000 US personnel on all of these bases, and that is a red line. If Iran were to attack any of those bases, that would be a very big red line. And my hunch is that all of these forces are being moved into the region to exactly prevent Iran from carrying out an attack like this. If Iran and the regime are fighting with their back to the wall, as you mentioned, they're literally alone. There's nobody who's supporting them overtly. The GCC countries are just standing by quietly. Russia and China are not saying anything significant. Iran is actually bearing the brunt of all of these attacks from Israel by itself. And of course, the US could join in very rapidly. And if Iran crosses that line, Preeti, and attacks US bases, targeting US servicemen, that would be a very, very big red line.
No support, Sandeep, you say, but what about Iran proxies, the Hezbollah? How much will that weigh in?
Hezbollah has been decapitated as of last year by that pager bomb attacks. They are in no shape to fight. Syria, Assad is gone. It used to be a very important Iranian ally. The Houthis are where they are, way down in Yemen, thousands of kilometers south. They can't do much. There's no one who can really come to Iran's assistance right now, which is why the regime is in a very, very tough situation.
So is that, Pranay, what you're picking up, Sandeep, I'm sorry I'm coming in, and maybe you can come in. I want to bring in Shivani as well. So with what Sandeep says, are we actually looking right now, at least with all indications on ground and the global voices that we see speak, where the G7 summit is concerned, the president going back, leaving it, keeping in mind the conflict, that we could actually be even looking at a forced regime change? Are we looking at that right now, Sandeep? You think that could be on the cards?
I'm looking at two possible options based on what Donald Trump just said. He said the end, right? He said that they were pushing for the end. Now, what does the end mean? What does he mean by the end? Is it a regime change? Or is it the end of Iranian nuclear weapons program? Or is it both? The fact is that if you take out the regime, that means the end of the nuclear weapons program, the Iranian nuclear weapons program.
Pranay, you want to weigh in on that?
Definitely, Preeti. I want to make a point here that, why at this juncture? That Israel is already engaged in a conflict in West Asia with Hamas, with Gaza, with Hezbollah, with Houthis. But still, to have a peaceful neighborhood, it is not possible, because all these, proxies were being assisted, they have been held, and they have been supported by Iran. Israel has been trying to, and letting US to have some solution. The previous regime, previous administration, the Biden administration, they have worked with them. But there is no end to it. And when President Donald Trump calls about an end, you have to see there is an India linkage as well. That India, Middle East Economic Corridor, the big idea, the Abrahamic Accord idea, where President Donald Trump was invested during his previous administration between 2016 to 20, and even the Biden administration when they have signed this India-Middle East Economic Corridor. This big idea cannot be fructified till the time Iran is supporting these excess of resistance, or in their language, lingo, if you call them, the excess of evil. So that's why taking out Iran and Iran's capabilities is very important for the US as well as for Israel.
Stay with me, Pranay. I want to just get into a bit of news break, and we'll bring in Shivani as well, who's been tracking the conflict very closely. And that's the news that is coming in, which we did touch upon, that there have been series of fresh strikes by Israel in West Iran. Iran's surface-to-surface missile launchers hit, launch sites attacked in western Iran, strategic targets hit in Iran. Shivani, give us the details, please.
Preeti, the targets are being hit by Israel. It is a continuous escalation and targeting by Israel, and especially on and the focus is on the assets of Iran, be it the military assets, the military or the nuclear targets that have been taken in by Israel. And we were just speaking to the ambassador of Israel in India, and we were trying to take some clarity on the operation that's going on. And he said that we do not know how long the operation can take. That means the situation is going to remain similar in the coming days also, Preeti, with more attacks on Iran from Israel. But Israel is also saying that the kind of missiles that were being launched from Iran since last few days, there is a decrease in that number. That means to certain level, there are losses that have been inflicted upon, and Israel has been achieving what it started, the goal with which it started the whole operation. So we are getting a lot of indications, Preeti, that Israel will go on with similar attacks and on these installations especially. And what has been made very clear here once again, that this is a military operation, no targeting of civilians. That's what Israel claims. Only the military targets, only the ones that were chosen as a plan, the ones who were involved in the nuclear program of Iran, the ones who were intelligence officers who were supporting that nuclear program, or were one of the assets of these nuclear programs, are being neutralized. And this elimination will continue, and that's why we are seeing fresh attacks, especially in Tehran, which happens to be one of the strategic locations for all these assets of Iran.
Right.
So Preeti, we'll be seeing some more action for the coming days, because the situation seems to be escalating, especially from
Clearly,
Israel's
yes.
targeting.
You know, I want to get in all three of you, just one by one, very quickly before I allow you to go. But Pranay, let's begin with you. It's a tight diplomatic walk where India is concerned. What has been India's stand till now? How are we looking at the situation from our interests?
If you see the statement of Minister of External Affairs here, Preeti, on this conflict and situation, we have good relation with both Israel and Iran. We are certainly for peace. We are certainly for de-escalation. If you see the stated position of India vis-a-vis the nuclear program of Iran is concerned, we have said that Iran has a right for the peaceful, the nuclear enrichment for the peaceful purposes. But since Iran is a signatory of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, they should not do anything to acquire nuclear weapon. This remains in the domain of IAEA, and the recent statement from IAEA clearly indicates that Iran has ramped up its enrichment program, and that remains a matter of concern. Look, as far as the nuclear club is concerned, nobody wants other entry in the nuclear club, and that you know, the smaller the ring, better it is. So that is the policy. But as far as the region is concerned, we definitely have a concern. We have concerns about the spillover of the conflict, because in West Asia region, in the Gulf region, we have around 80 lakh people of Indian origin and Indians who are working there in the Gulf countries. We do not want escalation in that area. Also, that region is very important for us as far as the energy supplies are concerned. So therefore, these are the issues with which and on which we want de-escalation. We have also expressed our intent that if we can help in any way, India stands ready to help either parties to find some solution and have peaceful solution and dialogue and diplomacy.
And therefore, there will also be economic consequences, not just for India, but the world as well, with the conflict in this particular region. But what are you looking at now, Sandeep? Over the next 24 hours, we're clearly looking at a conflict which is only escalating, intensifying. What are you watching closely?
Well, I'm looking
America?
at, America, of course, because you look at the kind of assets that the United States has been moving into the region, Preeti. They have one carrier strike group already in the Arabian Sea, that's the USS Carl Vinson. They're moving in a second carrier strike group, that is the USS Nimitz. 20 tankers, we are being told, have landed in the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. These are tankers which refuel fighter jets. There are a number of fighter aircraft already there, which means that the United States is preparing for a very large amount of air operations in the region, and that could suggest something to do with Iran. Are they trying to move in, once and for all, try and attack Iran, destroy its nuclear capabilities, take its enrichment program back by several years, or are they going in for the kill this time and attempting regime change from the air? Because, for changing a regime, you actually need boots on the ground. You need something like the 200,000 or so allied,
Have there been precedent?
I was looking at 2001 December in Afghanistan, where You had the Taliban that was chased out of Afghanistan by US bombs, fighter jets, and a very light footprint of special forces, US special forces with the Northern Alliance soldiers. But in Iran, you're looking at a full-scale Iranian military, which will actually have to be militarily defeated before they can be, the regime can be pushed out. So it's a very complicated situation looking at, and as you said, United States is going to be very key. What the US does in the next 24 hours or so is going to decide the future of this conflict.
Shivani, if we still have you with us, I want to just bring in my colleague Shivani for one quick final word. Shivani, there is this fog of war, and we've seen there is a lot of manipulation of real-time information which can transcend into misinformation. What are we looking at? Because if one is to believe, it seems Iran completely has its back to the wall, but is Iran also being smart and strategic in fighting back? What are you picking up?
See, Preeti, Iran is trying to gather a lot of support and showing that Israel has been targeting the civilian areas, especially, while Israel says that whatever is being said by Iran is not completely true. There are false narrative, like we faced the false narrative, the fake agenda that was being run by Pakistan when we witnessed the Operation Sindoor. The picture is quite similar here, Preeti, too, because there were a lot of revelations that were being made by the ambassador as we were speaking to him. He said that no losses in the Haifa port city have been made. There are certain claims that are being made by Iran that are not true, that are not correct. There were ICBMs that were being developed to be handed over to the Houthis and to other proxy armies of the Iran, and the nuclear capabilities, the program that was going quite speedily ahead. So they needed to check that, and for that matter, it was a planned attempt by the Israelis to first neutralize and to counter the Hezbollahs and the Hamas groups, and later on to attack Iran. So we see a lot of misinformation is also going on in this whole operation.
From either
and the
sides.
military operation will continue.
And that's what we're going to attempt to do, over the course of time. As we report, the conflict responsibly, it's about, separating propaganda from what are actual facts. India has no dibs in this, viewers, and we're going to, get you perspective coming in from both sides, Iran and Israel. Crucial the next 24 hours. I appreciate all three of you for joining me.